Hi everyone, very good afternoon and an early good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us in this edition of our series of Meet with Digital Thinkers Fireside Chat. We have been showcasing stories of digital leaders transforming businesses using technology through this series, and today is going to be one such interesting digital leader who will be talking about his journey with the cloud. But before we actually move into the fireside chat, I actually just want to take a few minutes of your time to set the context. And when we are talking about today's digital economy that's centered around customer experience, we all agree that the ordinary no longer cuts the deal. The new economy that is emerging now, where technology creates the opportunities, it is highly customer driven economy. So customer centricity is no longer limited to organizations focusing their efforts around their own idea of the customer. Today, it is all about enabling the customer to choose when and how they want to engage. And this is what businesses today are striving for, giving their customers the flexibility in terms of engaging at their own comfort and as well as will. So as a result, the new rules for digital transformation are pivoting towards maximizing lifetime value and delivering extraordinary experiences to customers versus pushing single interactions. So today, more than ever, the experience that businesses deliver to their customers are key to reclaiming growth amidst the uncertainty that we face today. Now, several aspects underpin the delivery of extraordinary customer experience. It includes redefining the processes that customers have traditionally been used to, improving time to market, creating additional channels for customer outreach, and building highly responsive user experiences, among other factors. So let's see how a company is pushing the threshold for delivering extraordinary customer experiences while building agility, scalability, and flexibility with cloud. And the company that I'm talking about here is LIC Housing Finance Limited. And to talk about how one of India's largest and leading housing finance companies is redefining customer experience through its online customer onboarding platform, which is built and run on cloud, I have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Hitesh Talreja, Chief Manager IT LIC Housing Finance Limited. As the Chief Manager IT of the company, Mr. Talreja is in charge of leading the technology implementation as well as digital transformation of the company. He has over 2 decades of experience in the industry, and majority part of which has been associated with LIC Housing Finance Limited. And to take the discussion forward and understand the company's cloud journey, I would like to invite Kamolika Paris, Director Sales, Google Cloud India. Kamolika is a seasoned business leader and technologist who comes with over 20 years of experience in consulting, business and technology transformation and enterprise sales. So Kamolika, I'll hand it over to here to take it forward.
Thank you so much, Shipra, and thanks for that fantastic introduction. Couldn't have put it better myself. Customer experience is what it's all about, in the whole post or the pandemic scenario that we're facing today. So with that, Hitesh, I'm really, really pleased to welcome you to this chat today and really looking forward to a very, very engaging conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Shipra, and thanks, Kamolika, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone. Yep.
Great. So with that, Hitesh, since everybody is very, very keen to hear about the journey that you've had with LIC Housing Finance, I'm just going to start off the conversation. I think at the outset, it would be great if you can just take us a little bit through the journey that LIC Housing Finance has had from 1989 till date. A huge number of families served, about 25 lakh, about 3.35 lakh crore of cumulative disbursements since inception. Those are some very, very impressive numbers. So do please talk us through the company's rich heritage and evolution that you've also seen, done there.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, LIC Housing Finance has been in existence for over 30 years. And all these years, one of the things which has kept us ahead of our competition is, in terms of how we adapt to technology. And since we have a legacy and a heritage coming from our parent company, LIC of India, it has, helped us to keep ourselves in more of a kind of a sustained on our own core competencies And those competencies, right from the processes which we have, as well as from the implementation of the technologies. So over a period of 30 years, there has been various initiatives in technology and other areas which has helped us in keeping our business ahead. Secondly, I would also like to say, we have always adopted that we should not be going somewhere, gung ho about, when the markets are good, so or try to fizzle out when the markets go bad. So what has happened is we have always been able to give a sustainable growth. It has always been a consistent performance. If you see from last 15 to 20 years, we are growing at a compounding growth of almost 12 to 15%. So even when the markets were looking up, we were, showing those sustained growths in terms of the profits as well as the, customer engagements. And even when the last 1 or 2 years when the things are not looking so up, we have been still showing up, a considerable, significant growth and keeping, our bad debts at a very minimalistic level. So this, I think, has, helped us to ensure that we are able to give the value to our stakeholders.
No, I mean, thanks for painting that picture, Hitesh. I think, it's a very, very core value of resilience, that we see in the way that, the track record of the company has shaped up. And that's really, interesting to hear about. So, overall in the home loan market, there has been some intense competition, right? With both public and private sector players coming in, highly competitive offerings, and everybody seems to be talking about, focusing on the customer experience, right? Now, when you were setting out on this journey, what challenges did you face, when you tried to improve customer centricity, and how did the legacy systems, present a roadblock to that?
See, what happened is, what must, it is good if we accept and also anticipate that the customer experience or the customer expectations are ever changing. Whatever best you try, there is always something new which the customer will demand. So we understood this thing, and we thought, let us look a complete new paradigm in terms of how we attend to the customers' requisitions, how we service them, and how we provide varied products. Because to remain ahead in the competition, or to even remain in the competition, you have not only come out with the products which can attract the customers, but you should be able to provide those products to the customer when he needs them. So when we had our legacy systems, which are not much on the clouds, or the having their own challenges, so we face one of the very typical challenge in terms of time to market. Whenever new products have been offered, it took a certain amount of time when we go out to the market and market them. And now, as everyone is so informed about what the other competition is doing, that the moment you come out with a new product, there is always, people will try to follow the suit. So the critical time is that, you should market it in a right manner, and you should be able to market in the right market. So when we, understood that, we thought, let us not only look into terms of, providing everything on a mobile or everything on a cloud, but we should be able to identify what to provide and how soon that has to be provided. So these are the two key experiences we took, and ensuring that our legacy systems are well integrated with whatever changing needs. So we ensure that, focusing on the cloud, focusing on, mobile apps are the way to go forward. So some of the challenges, as I talked about, is time to market and all. So we are able to overcome with this, with the changing needs which we had thought of.
No, that's fantastic. I think what to provide, how to provide it, when to provide it, and how to also integrate. How to also integrate with the legacy, as you rightly said, because obviously change, comes in different parts of the organization at different times. Maybe the interfaces change faster, and then the backend systems still have to continue, right? So one of the things that I wanted to ask you was this: allowing the customers the flexibility to choose when and how they want to engage with the business. I think that's a very fundamental point that you mentioned, and this is really at the heart of great customer experience, right? So when you decided to build a one-stop loan application and tracking app, how did you find cloud to be the right fit? I mean, for this whole approach that you wanted to anchor.
So, Kamalka, I think when we thought of that, yes, we need to go into some kind of a solution which can help us market our products and to reach out to the customers and a larger platform, we thought cloud has to be one of the solution. It's not that initially, right from the day one, we were very confident and informed that yes, we should be going ahead with the cloud. But when we talk about technology, we thought technology is changing over a period of time, and one very key aspect which we were all a bit apprehensive is we are not sure when we are going out into the market what kind of volumes we will be attracting. So that become we thought can become a larger bottleneck when in case if the market reacts favorably, if the customers are really going to adopt it, then we might be feeling certain kind of challenges in terms of providing the kind of service to the larger customer base. So we thought cloud provides us that flexibility that tomorrow if I want to grow my infrastructure to a very higher level, I can do it within no time, or at least within a very, very shorter period of time. So that proved us a major positive when we were thinking of cloud. And the second flexibility, which of course any kind of cloud platform would allow, is the flexibility to think about the services and not about the technology per se. We are really not concerned what infra is running on, what kind of technical solutions though it is running on. I was only concerned that what services I would be offering to my customers, how soon I will be able to flexibly increase my infrastructure if the growth increases. So those were the concerns of flexibility in terms of adopting what kind of technology. And second is, of course, in case if the volumes are increasing, then we should be able to adopt it to the faster. So these are the couple of factors which we thought cloud will help us to go. And I'm happy that when we launched it sometime in February, we have had almost 500,000 downloads till now, and it has really taken us in a big way.
Fantastic. No, and I completely agree with you. With a lot of these new business initiatives, where you may not know that what is the exact uptake, scalability, etc. It's comforting to leave that decision to a cloud environment which can scale, auto scale as and when you need it, scale up, scale down, while you only take care of the customer interface and the customer experience and all of that. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let me also ask you, a slightly different question related to that. Now, when you actually launch an online platform, right, the customer will have certain expectations regarding speed, agility, response time, scalability, etc. How has Google Cloud Platform really helped you to, to push the threshold on these key metrics?
I think it is, it has served us well. If I have to put it in a very, very simple statement, yes, it has, we were able to ensure that the agility, the kind of speed, and the kind of performance it has delivered has really come up to our expectations. And, as you have rightly said, any cloud platform, whether it is Google Cloud or any other cloud, the major success factor relies on how smooth the transition is and how soon we are able to adapt to it. So that has, with the Google team or even our app developer team from New Year's, they were able to engage with us and try to understand that, yes, this adoption can be really, transformational and smooth. See, disruption can always, everyone talks about that, let us create a disruption in the market. I personally feel that, disruptions certainly can revolutionize. But if we need to adopt a uniform growth or a sustained growth, it needs to be transformed smoothly. So that is where I think, I must appreciate the efforts taken by the GCP team and as well as the Nebius team. They have helped us to embark on this journey in a very sustained and a positive manner. And I must also mention one more point that, we launched this app sometime in February. And by the coming of the March, we had this COVID impact, which has, gripped the nation, and we have had lockdowns for almost 2 to 3 months. So we feel that, the journey which we started with on onboarding has helped us to remain engaged with the customers, even when our offices were not opening, our customers were not able to visit our offices. But through this app, we were able to engage the customers. We were able to tell them, yes, LIC Housing is always there to, serve your needs.
Yeah, in fact, Hitesh, that would be something that we would really love to hear a little more about, because as you rightly said, when we launched this, obviously none of us were envisaging what the situation would be a few months down
Yeah,
the line. But looking back, it was so timely for you to have launched that when you did, almost visionary in that sense, right? To have
yeah,
that online channel ready for your customers when the
yeah,
pandemic struck, right? So tell us how
exactly.
it was to see that, that channel kind of taking off during the
Mhm.
lockdown when the normal services were suspended.
It was really heartening to, because this lockdown was a time when, everyone has their, you know, uh, morale down. Businesses are really looking that, whether we will be able to, come out of it, or how long will the impact would be felt. But we were all very sure that since we have the customers who are still inquiring on our online onboarding, and wherever the offices could open or wherever we could service them to a in a limited manner, we were able to service them. So it was really heartening to see that. And one thing which which you may say, "Ki, okay, we are visionary and all," but nobody has expected that
Of
such a
course.
thing to happen, and God forbid it shouldn't happen again. But
Yeah.
what it had helped us that we were able to bounce back within no time. So, we had the customers engaged. We knew, there are so many customers who have tried to onboard. They have in principle sanctions with them. So as soon as the offices have started opening up, we could immediately, start the next process with them. So instead of, my offices were not worried about now to how to pull the customers back into our system. We already had the customers, and we already have given them the in principle approvals through this onboarding application, and it was just the right time to start the next phase. So immediately the disbursal start. So our business started looking up and showing the growth within no time. So this, of course, that is one of the major achievement, I would say. And in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the architecture with which it was built, we are able to make certain changes because when the pandemic happened, there were certain new realities which set in the market. So we have to uh, change our products to a certain extent. But with the kind of flexibility the architecture of this app was built in, we were able to quickly change those things. We are able to quickly come around with the newer products, the newer rates in the market, so that this onboarding journey as well as the sanctioning journey started pretty fast. So now just after 1 month, nobody still thinks that we were had this kind of a pandemic. So the offices have really
Right, right.
come buckled up.
No, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And while none of us wish that this kind of a situation, comes upon us again, I think
Correct.
our observation also has been that, organizations who are digitally agile, who have made some of those innovation projects or investments ahead of time, were
Hmm.
the ones that weathered the storm relatively well, and can, get back into the regular mode of operations when things open up.
Correct.
So
Correct.
absolutely, that's very true. One thing that I do want to ask you, Hitesh, is whenever you talk about cloud, the whole topic of security always keeps coming up, right?
Hmm.
Especially in the context of a regulated industry such as yourselves, right?
Correct.
How
Correct.
did you address all of these apprehensions and concerns, that you must have, that the organization may have had before moving on to this cloud journey? I'm sure all of us would like to hear about that.
I think security is one area where nobody can deny that is most paramount, especially in the cloud, or I would say a public cloud offering, because this was one, and especially we have a kind of a legacy which we have from our parent organizations, the kind of regulations which the any financial industry has to follow. This all helped. This all has kept us away from the cloud and security, data sovereignty, all those questions were being asked again and again. We were it was difficult to initially convince ourselves. We forget about convincing the management or convincing any other one
Right.
else. But as a technology person, we should be able to completely convince among ourselves that yes, whatever services I'm providing over cloud is having the required security mechanism built on it. So we understood and we try to follow, what the GCP is providing, as their GCP has talked about the third-party audits, certain other aspects which, the global standards which, the Google Cloud is following up. So we, did some kind of in-depth analysis study on it, and then we thought, yes, my data is not only secure, but I'm able to give that assurance back to my customers first and to my regulators next. So, those kind of, security concerns were addressed. But I would still say, let us not be, at any point think that security is not a concern. It will always remain the concern. But, let us talk whether I should have any application on-prem or on cloud. More or less the security concerns remains the same. Only thing I am in better control when it comes to when the applications is on-prem. But with the GCP, the kind of openness they are providing, the kind of documentations, legality documents which are being signed, that helps us to at least free us up from certain kind of limitations and fears. And I hope so. This turned out to be true, because still we are just 4 to 5 months of an engagement, and so far so good.
No, I think we ourselves, we take our security principles, setup, governance extremely seriously, and I think we also echo that anybody who takes that journey with us, there has to be absolute trust in the cloud services that we provide. So absolutely with you on the same page there. So Hitesh, I had just one last question for you. We have a lot of established organizations with legacies similar to LIC Housing Finance, who are, let's say, on the cusp of a cloud journey, right? And they are thinking about it. Maybe they're doing it in small parts, but not in a very in a transformational way. What would be your advice for a lot of those organizations who are on the cusp of the cloud journey?
I would say start small if you can, but let us make a beginning. Until unless we start implementing cloud into our environment and bring them into our ecosystems, we are not going to gain confidence on it. So start small, start from the peripheral activities, and slowly, that has to build into our ecosystem, and that's where we grow the confidence, because nothing works well without even trying it out. So we have always have a firm belief that, let us try out. Even if we fail, we should be able to, we should fail to an extent where we are able to recover from it. So my advice to anyone who would be, embarking on this cloud journey, let's start small and try to gain confidence by actually working on it. And I'm sure, the partners like Nevius, GCP are always there to, support the organizations who are trying to foray into this newer area.
No, that's very well said. I think I also believe that every organization chooses its own path in terms of how they want to move forward, and we always respect that. But yes, I think with exciting new technologies, learning, understanding how they can be applied, what are the benefits of it. As I think as technology professionals, this is what excites all of us, and this is what also keeps on pushing the envelope for everybody, right? So I think that's a great way to put it.
And it is more becoming a business need rather than a technical need. Technology, because technology team will always talk about what kind of technology I'm going to bring in, what kind of new innovation I'm going to bring. But finally, the business needs that what kind of output I'm getting.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I think it is more driven from the business needs right now, rather than anything
absolutely.
else.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Great, Hitesh. So that was a wonderful. Thank you so much for the insights that you shared. It's been a privilege taking that journey along with your organization. For the last 4-5 months, and hearing about your perspective on how it has shaped the customer experience, how it has shaped the conversation within the organization. I think has been absolutely interesting, both for me as well as all the people who are listening in. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And on that note, I'm going to hand back to Shipra. Shipra, over to you.
Thanks, Kamalika, and thank you so much, Mr. Tareja, for really bringing across the essence of what real customer experience and business transformation the cloud can help achieve. And when you're taking us through your cloud journey and how you're leveraging it to provide flexibility and choice to your customers to apply for loans anytime, anywhere, it was really heartening to see, that organizations are bringing in digital transformation transformation, and they are bringing in cloud at the center of their customer experience strategies. And most importantly, how cloud helped you create an additional channel for customer outreach, especially during the lockdown. That was quite interesting to hear about, and I'm sure many of our audience and delegates will get a lot of learning out of that. So thank you once again so much, sir, for joining us, and thanks, Kamalika, for that wonderful and enlightening discussion. So I would request all our viewers to key in their questions. You can write in your questions for Mr. Talreja, for Kamalika, while we have our next session, and we will take up these questions towards the end during the Q&A section. So with that, I will move on to the next in our agenda, which is a presentation by Niveus Solutions. Now, we all agree that cloud is the key pillar in the transformation journey. Now, how to ensure that this journey is optimized, and how do you ensure to maximize the results that you set out to achieve with cloud? And a key aspect of that is your partner. And to hear the perspective of the partner, I would now like to invite Bharat Yaragati, Practice Head for Cloud Services at Niveus Solution. Bharat has around 14 years of experience in delivering excellence to clients by partnering in their modernization journeys across verticals like BFSI, digital natives, automotive, and media. So, Bharat, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shipra. And in fact, that was a very enlightening discussion. Thanks, Hitesh and Kamalika. You gave us a lot of insight on how this particular application has come at the right time, servicing the client needs. In fact, I'm very proud to say that I'm one of the customers of LIC Housing Finance, and my home loan is with them as well. So it has really helped me. Personally also I use the app. My parents use the app. So while one way is as a customer we were able to bring in a lot of value add on things like what a customer of the application would like to see, right? What are the different features they would like to use? And then it is, it's a very enlightening to see that eventually turn into an app, and then we eventually start using it, right? So thanks a lot for that. What I'll do is I'll quickly present my screen. Would just like to hear if you're able to see it when I do that.
Shipra, why don't we take questions from the audience in the meantime?
Yes, let's do that. So in the meanwhile, Bharat can just try and see if the presentation comes up. So yes, while we were presenting, so while the fireside chat was going on, we received a few questions. So Kamalika, I have there was a question for you, which says that Google is investing a huge amount in India, as announced by Sundar Pichai. So what kind of investments can we expect in the BFSI sector?
So the India Digitization Fund, as announced by Sundar, of course, is something that is going to be used to invest in really invest for India, right? And we saw a few of those investments also being announced. Stay tuned, right? I think the discussions on how exactly the fund is to be used and how the funds will be deployed is something that is being worked out even as we speak. And we do anticipate that there's going to be, further announcements of where some of these investments will go. So I couldn't share more than that, but do stay tuned, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of action on that front, because this is something that we all feel very passionately about from Google as an organization.
Okay, great. So I think we do have the presentation up. So Kamalika, I'll come back to you and to Mr. Talreja with more questions.
Yeah, sorry. I had a technical glitch, so I can see it now.
Yeah, we can start with the presentation, and we'll come back to the Q&A at the end as we had planned. Great,
sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shipra, and yeah, my apologies for that glitch. So let me give a quick introduction about Niveus Solutions, right? So we are a Google Cloud partner with expertise in basically 3 areas of modernization. That is, the application, infrastructure, and the data modernization journeys, right? So we've been working, with clients like BFSI and media, and then automotive, as well as retail clients and healthcare as well, right? So where we are helping them with predominantly move their legacy applications, which typically have a monolithic-based architecture hosted either on-prem or on VMs with a lift and shift model. And we are now kind of helping them break it down into microservices and containers and host them on Google Cloud, and then eventually help them achieve value adds and business value adds like dynamic scalability, cost optimization, performance enhancement, and high availability. Right. So we have an expertise in building modern cloud native applications as well as migrating legacy applications to cloud. Right. So this is a quick view of the tenets of Google Cloud which were used in building this particular LIC's online platform. Right. So from the whole GCP ecosystem, we have used the Kubernetes engine basically to manage all the microservices and the containers. It acts as a managed service of Kubernetes for orchestrating it, and then the compute engine for the compute aspects, for cloud functions in order to deliver complex functionalities. And when it comes to storage, since it is like a form that is accepted initially from the clients through their Android or iOS apps, it's the form information stored on Cloud Firestore first, and then eventually pushed to Cloud SQL and using a persistent disk, and then eventually synced up with the on-premises database that LIC HFL has on their backend, which is their core legacy system again. Right? So it's a kind of a hybrid structure that we have put it, a hybrid cloud structure here, right? And we have used development tools like container registry and Cloud SDK to basically use the command line controls to run your microservices and manage them. And then with respect to the network aspects, we have used the Cloud Firewall, Cloud Armor, Cloud CDN, as well as Cloud Load Balancing in order to manage the traffic of the loads that's coming in, right? Like Hitesh rightly said, when we launched the application back in February, it wasn't anticipated that a pandemic like COVID is going to come and hit us so badly, where people would actually they would not be able to go to the branches or meet their agents in order to process their loans, right? So that's exactly where this app came in, and we saw a sudden increase in the number of downloads and the sudden increase in the number of applications per day, right? Because we have used such a robust backend infrastructure on Google Cloud, all these containers and the modern architecture was able to scale up dynamically, cater to these customers' needs, and when the load reduced, the resources were released dynamically, so that the spend or the IT spend on the infrastructure was also kind of optimized, right? Kamalika and Hitesh both spoke about the security aspect, right? So we've used the cloud identity access management in order to set the access at the project level to the developers, to the architects, at what level it can be used. The Google's the key management system has been used to securely manage the keys, so that right from the development layer to the production layer to the network layer, everywhere there is whole encryption and decryption managed, so that security of the data, both at rest and at transit, is taken care of, right? And the security command center is used to give additional security around the containers and at all the different layers of the the application, right? So these are pretty much the key areas where we are working with, which I'd like to highlight here. So like I told you, there are three main areas which modernization can fall into, right? So if you are looking at modernizing your infrastructure, right, we are talking about VM migrations, hybrid cloud, containerizing, the microservices, and then optimize your whole lift and shift applications where a monolithic application is hosted on cloud, and then infrastructure as a code, as well as the monitoring aspects like using tools like Stackdriver, right? Application modernization has two angles to it. One is where you migrate your legacy systems to Google Cloud and then leverage what the cloud has to offer. The second is if you're looking at building new applications, like what LIC HFL has done, is build cloud native applications on cloud using the modern technologies and the modern infrastructure, and then which are practically, the scale aspect of it is infinite, right? While you can configure the lower and the upper limits at what you want your applications to scale, practically, if you look at it from the technical point of view, the scale up is pretty much infinite, right? Then comes the third aspect, which is the data modernization, right? Which typically the traditional ETL processes, which take a long time to run, by using the Google Google Console ecosystem tools like your Dataflow, Dataproc, right? And then pushing the data into Bigtable for all your IoT and telematics data, and then eventually push this to BigQuery to come up with beautiful dashboards using Data Studio and Looker, right? So those are the transformational journeys where we have helped in the data modernization piece, where the data that's there can be used to market your products at the right time to the right customer, so that you can leverage the best out of it, right? It's the whole, it's embedded with the Google's, machine learning and analytics platform. Right. The fourth offering is, of course, cloud security as a service. Right. We're talking about container security, the data loss prevention, the compliances. Since Google themselves use the, like Kamalika rightly said, the infrastructure of Google Cloud is also used by the Google set of products like YouTube, G Suite, and so many of these other products. Right. So they are already compliant to the regulatory guidelines issued by various countries. It could be HIPAA compliance, it could be compliance with respect to financial bodies, etc. Right. So the only additional worry which an application builder will have to take care is how he's going to manage his data and his data flow, and what kind of access is going to give it between his team members. Right. So it is an API layer, security, where you use FPG kind of a platform where you can build APIs and securely host it, in order to collaborate with the new age fintech companies. Right, today no longer it's a competition between the two companies, right? There is so much to offer, there's so many customers, there's so much to be given. How can we collaborate with our fintech partners and take things forward, right? So this is where a secure API gateway like FPG comes in picture and helps achieve this particular objective, right? The way we operate is, we usually get in touch with our clients, try to understand what kind of ecosystem they have at present, right? Are they looking at modernizing their legacy applications? Are they looking at building, cloud native modern applications? And then we work out a plan, a consulting plan on how to identify, these applications using a questionnaire approach. We have our own framework to identify which app, like Hitesh rightly said, right? Start small. So how do I start small? What application do I identify first? So we would work with the technical teams of your organizations and put together a joint plan on how do we take it forward. And then throughout the entire journey, once your applications are up and running on cloud, we even offer managed cloud service as an option, right? Where we take care of the continuous monitoring of your applications, these containers and microservices which have been hosted, set up dynamic reporting and alerting, and then dashboarding and all your audit reporting part of it. And we continuously keep optimizing these applications so that your customers can get the best of this cloud native applications. Right. So those are a couple of applications or the service offerings that we have. So together with a solid platform like Google Cloud and with a partner who has the right skill set, the business disruption is absolutely possible. Right. With that, I would like to just give some of the insights into the clients that we have been working with and the kind of work we've been doing. In the BFSI sector, we've been working with banks like ICICI and lending. Big brands like LIC, HFL, where we have worked with customer acquisition, transition monitoring systems, building new applications as well as modernization. We've been working with media companies where we've been helping them modernize their legacy applications which are hosted on WordPress into a modernized container-based application so that they're able to cater to their online audience, right, without any kind of a delay. Now, next is in the healthcare, right? This is another sector where pandemic, where we were able to launch a virtual healthcare option, between hospitals and the patients, where the patients can onboard themselves, book a virtual appointment, and have a video chat and things like that with their doctors and get prescriptions and diagnosis on the flow without really having to visit the hospital. Right? And then the other sector is where we are working is the automotive sectors like TVS and Ather for their telematics and data transformation journeys. Right. So these are some of the other clients that we've been working with and in their transformational journeys in these three aspects: that's app, data, and infrastructure modernization. Right. That's pretty much it from my side. Thanks for this opportunity, and yeah, back to you, Shubha.
Thanks, Bharat. So we will take the questions now. So while we are taking up the questions that have already been asked, please feel free to drop in more questions in the Q&A section that you can see. So Kamalika, taking forward the last question around the focus and investments that we can expect in the BFSI sector, there's a continuing question, which is that are you seeing more organizations in the BFSI industry move their critical apps from on-prem to cloud, and what kind of apps have they been putting on cloud? Kamalika, you're on mute. Yeah.
I just realized that. Thanks, Shipra. I think that's a fantastic question, and I think this whole topic about how the BFSI industry is moving to cloud is a fascinating one, right? And we actually see a full spectrum of behaviors in terms of what strategies organizations are adopting, right? So in the beginning, it used to be like, smaller workloads that people experimented with, right? Saying that, okay, some maybe non-critical workloads, let's put them onto cloud, let's get the benefit of that, and then let's see, right? Then now it moved to saying, okay, let's put a whole lot of the customer experience of the customer-facing applications and solutions on the cloud, right? Because I think there was a recognition, and like we just heard from Hitesh as well, that the customer-facing applications and solutions are the ones that need to be very rapid, very quick response, flexible, scalable, so that the customer response requirements are met, right? But increasingly now we are also seeing a whole lot of customer stories emerging which talk about moving even the core to the cloud, right? So from Google Cloud, for example, we can talk about some of our global customers like HSBC and Deutsche Bank who have actually lifted the entire ecosystems onto cloud, right? And with that, with the realization that this therefore gives them the rapid response, agility, flexibility that they really need to operate, in these modern times, where change is a constant, to actually have that kind of a flexibility and agility in their ecosystem, right? So we are seeing some very, very revolutionary, approaches taken by very, very, sort of well-entrenched and established institutions in the financial services space when it comes to the move to cloud, right? Having said that, we do also recognize that every organization charts its own course. So for example, if you look at the Google approach to hybrid cloud, right, it's really about making your move to cloud as and when you wish to, right? So with products like Anthos, for example, you have the flexibility to decide when you want to move to cloud, how you want to move to cloud, but at the same time, leverage a cloud-like experience in your own data center, by building a microservices, Kubernetes-based ecosystem, which allows you to have that flexibility that cloud gives you, right? So it's the best of both worlds in a sense, because you get the benefits of cloud in your on-premise data center. So some of these kind of offerings, which are coming from Google Cloud, are actually making it even easier for banks to actually contemplate a journey to cloud while making sure that their existing ecosystem, their on-premise, everything moves along in that modernization journey with them.
Right, thanks, Kamalika. So, Mr. Thalreja, I have a question for you from the audience. So the person wants to know that now that LIC Housing Finance Limited has embarked on the modernization journey, what kind of customer-centric innovations are there in the pipeline now?
Yeah, so right now what we are also envisaging is to bring the current application as a single solution, not for the new customers, that is for not only for onboarding, but even for our existing customers, to provide them the various services in terms of disbursals or the subsequent disbursements which happen, which is will be making them to apply online. And it is also it is in the pipeline that we will be providing certain more facilities like the rewriting of loans, and in case if the customers are wants to have a subsequent loans on our properties, on the same property for which they have already availed a loan with us, so the to reduce that journey of those secondary loans or the additional loans which they are looking, or the kind of a top-ups, so that kind of services also will be coming up on this. So we are keeping that the customer engagement remains our focus, and we are not only looking for the newer customers, but we want to serve our existing customers in a better way. So that is what has been planned for our coming approaches.
That's quite interesting when you're saying that extending it to your existing customers as well. And from what you said is you're looking at kind of the entire life cycle of the customer journey, and not
Exactly.
just the onboarding aspect. And gradually you'll look at the entire life cycle of customers.
Yes. Yes.
So great, and we actually look forward to seeing more of that. So in the meanwhile, Bharat, so there's a question for you. What are the steps that you have taken at your end to ensure that the BFSI industry's security compliance requirements are met during the cloud migrations?
Yeah. So see, security, like we discussed it, right? It's kind of a shared responsibility between the OEM as well as the team which builds the application, right? So as a team building the application, or as a partner helping our clients, we ensure that all the we use tools like the Google Cloud IAM, right, the identity access management which we spoke about. So this ensures that as a development team, there is a proper a hierarchy followed, where who has access to what components of the project, which part they can access. It's not like one single access which is provided to all the developers, architects, and the QA team, or any other beta testers, right? So it is very structurally given so that only those set of components or ecosystem is available for that set of users to use. That is one part of it, right? Now, next comes with respect to data. There are a lot of compliances where RBI has guidelines like your customer data which is collected cannot reside on cloud for say X number of hours. So once this is collected in terms of forms, we ensure that this data is purged and pushed back to an on-prem repository or a backup, where this data is further restored for all your future communications. Whereas only the initial data that is collected for applying a particular loan or an account would be considered during that time, right? So this takes care of encryption, and all this data, while it is at rest as well as while it is a transit, is continuously encrypted and decrypted with several security keys, so that there's no way you can hack to it, right? And the next is, like Kamalika said, with Anthos coming in, right, we might be looking at something like a hybrid cloud, where a couple of workloads of the same application might be on premises and a couple of workloads might be on cloud, right? So how do we then exchange the data between these? That's where a cloud's VPN comes into picture, where you'll have a secure channel or a secure tunnel connecting your public cloud space as well as your on-premises data center. And there are various other options in order to transfer data much faster. As you can use an interconnect kind of an option, right, depending on what your need is and all that. So the data level is taken care with security aspects of this. Apart from this, we use tools like Cloud Identity, Cloud Armor, and third-party tools like FIRECHAT. And then there is security maintained at a container level. Our container is accessed, right? So right from development to the application, to the database, to the data, to the network, at all these layers, security is very tightly controlled. And like I said, it's a joint responsibility between the application as well as the OEM. And we know that for a fact that Google Cloud is one of the best when it comes to security, because they're already compliant with the majority of the BFSI and the healthcare guidelines. Yeah.
So Kamalika, there's one more question for you, and I'm sure this is a question which is there on almost every organization's and CIO's mind today, which is that business continuity is the most important need for our organization. How can Google help here?
Right. So I think fundamentally a great question, Shipra, actually, and I think interestingly, cloud has actually, the pandemic has actually shown us that a traditional definition of business continuity was probably not covering a lot of these scenarios that happened, right? So traditional business continuity always covered for things like, let's say, geo redundancy, not in the same seismic zone, and all of those kind of things, physical disasters, so to say. But this kind of a scenario where the people themselves are not available, right? This was something that was not usually in the traditional business continuity playbook, right? And it just shows that every new scenario shows us how these things evolve, right? One of the fundamental feedbacks we've heard from a lot of people is that having applications on cloud actually helped people put their new BCP guidelines into practice, right? Because it was less about maintaining an on-prem setup or having a data center that they actually had to send people to or man during these times. When it was on the cloud, it was absolutely taken care of, and this is not something that they had to worry about. So fundamentally, again, how much you digitize, how much you move on to cloud, that much is the level of let's say resilience that you get in your ecosystem without having to necessarily invest a lot in on-premise server farms and ecosystems, right? DR on cloud, again, is one of those very fundamental things which I think, again, rather than having a lot of investments in an on-premise setup, which may or may not be accessible during these times, DR on cloud can, again, be a very, very flexible option that gives you the benefits of having your data and your setup safe without necessarily having to, like I said, invest in an infrastructure setup. So I think cloud is really a very, very key option when it comes to business continuity, especially in light of the scenarios that have come up with the whole pandemic situation. And, I don't have any specific context to the question beyond that, but we would absolutely love to have a conversation with you if this is something that's top of mind, in your organization, to see how we can actually structure some of these scenarios for you because there are a whole host of capabilities that are available on cloud when it comes to better protecting your data and your applications in the case of any kind of disaster.
Great, thanks, Kamalika. Very rightly said. Also, the organizations, like you said earlier, who had invested in digital technologies and invested in new age technologies were better protected. They fared comparatively better than the organizations that were not. And I think that is a big learning going forward for organizations to ensure how they invest in technologies going forward, and where do they prioritize their investments in terms of the technologies. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Talreja. It was a pleasure and honor having you here with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Thank you, Kamalika, for taking us through the LIC Housing Finance's cloud journey. Thanks, Bharat. And thank you to everyone, to all our audience for joining us today for the session. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and stay healthy, stay safe. Yeah.
Thank you, Shipra. Thank you so much for the fantastic moderation.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.